Good morning. Thank you very much for having me today. This is an incredible thrill to be here talking to you. I certainly never thought 20-something years ago when I started my coffee career in Durham, North Carolina, that I'd end up in Seoul, South Korea, talking to incredible coffee people. I want to take a minute and acknowledge George Howell, who has been a real pioneer in coffee around the world and certainly an inspiration to all of us in the coffee industry in the United States. So my talk today is about something that I really, really love talking about, and those are core values and embracing core values to build a company. Because my background, I'm not a coffee person, I'll admit that. In fact, 21 years ago, I was in graduate school, I was in business school, and I had the entrepreneurial bug. My stepfather was an entrepreneur, and I'd worked with him every summer in his business, and so I wanted to start a company. I wanted to go out and build something. I didn't exactly know what, but at the time, coffee kind of found me. This was the early 90s, and there was this company called Starbucks that was getting a lot of attention, and this guy named Howard Schultz was on the cover of every business magazine. In business school, I saw a business plan for a mail-order coffee company, and so I just kept seeing coffee, coffee, coffee. So my stepfather gave me some sage advice. He said, when you go out and start your career, follow your heart, follow your passion. Don't necessarily chase the money. So I did that, and I was looking around, and I decided to start a coffee company. And today I want to talk to you about sort of the path that I've taken, the journey I've taken in building a coffee company, in creating and building counterculture coffee, and how along the way I learned the incredible value of having your core values, of embracing your core values, and making that a part of who you are, and building the company around that. And initially, I didn't really think much about that, but I'll share with you my story and that moment when I realized how important it was for us to really embrace who we were and to build a company based on that. So back then, almost 22 years ago now, I met a guy named Fred Houck, and I apologize for the quality of the picture. But Fred worked for a small roastery in Durham, North Carolina. And I called him, and I asked him out to lunch with the intention of seeing if the owner of his company would possibly sell. And in the course of that one meal, it was a 3-hour lunch, Fred and I, two total strangers, we decided that we were going to go into business together. We had different backgrounds, we were different ages, we were different in many ways, but there was a common link between us that was sort of unspoken. In its simplest terms, we wanted to build a great company. Now that might sound silly, it might sound trite, but we wanted to build a great company. We weren't trying to build a company of a certain size. We weren't trying to have revenues of a certain level or number of employees or be international. We just wanted to build a great company. A company that we could look back on and something that we could be proud of. And that was it. That was as simple as it gets. And we knew what that meant. We wanted to be a great partner with our suppliers. We wanted to create a great place for employees to come and work. We wanted to be great partners with our customers. And ultimately, when we were out going toe-to-toe with companies like Stumptown or Intelligentsia, if we got the business, we hope that those guys would say that Counterculture got the business because they did a great job, because they did a better job than we did. So that was it. We started the company, and immediately out of the gate, we had medical benefits, we had profit sharing for the employees, we were focusing on the environment. We were doing a lot of things that people now call the triple bottom line without really realizing it. We created a shade-grown coffee in 1997, and from the beginning, we had a commitment to quality. We wanted to be proud of our product, so quality was that main driver. Well, as I said, we were off to the races, and things went well for us. Our first year sales were about $250,000, and I think by year 3, we were at about over $1 million in sales, and I honestly never thought we would hit $1 million in sales. That was a big milestone. And things were going well, and Fred and I were making all the decisions, and we were growing, and it was great. We were recognized as selling to some of the nicest restaurants, the highest quality restaurants in town. Our growth rate got us recognized by a business magazine called Inc. magazine as one of the top 500 fastest growing companies in the country. We were 449th, but that was the top 500. So we were happy about that. So things were going well. But we hit a crossroads. And in 2001, Fred and I decided it made sense for the partnership to sort of break up. And ultimately, I bought Fred. And in the process of buying Fred, I borrowed a lot of money. And so I went in a major amount of debt. Also, at the time, my wife was pregnant with twins, and she was in the hospital on bed rest. And then 9/11 happened. And it was a tumultuous time for me because I no longer had a partner. I had a lot of debt, and the world was changing. And also the business was changing because we were growing. And I had one of those moments that I think every entrepreneur has as they build a company. And that is the moment when you realize that in order for the company to grow, you have to go from me to we. You have to go for where I'm making all the decisions. You have to build a team. And you have to build a team that's on the same page. And over the next couple of years, I struggled with that. We were bringing on people, and we were doing well, but I was worried about growing the company. My focus was not about buying the coffee. My focus was not about customer service. At that point, my focus became building an organization that could be great. And so I stopped for a moment, and I thought back to all those brands that had influenced me over the years. And I said, okay, what companies do I think are great, and why? What brands do I think are great, and why? So I put together the list of some of my favorite brands. And I actually put this list together, and we sat down with the management team, at the time with Peter Giuliano, with Darren Berlin, and Cindy Chang, some names that you all might know. And we sat down, and I explained to them, these are my favorite brands. And I wanted them to know why. Because you can see they're not coffee brands. They're not necessarily all food brands. There's a snowboard brand up there. There's clothing. There's motorcycles. There's one that's not even a product. It's a band called the Grateful Dead. And these brands really said something to me. And I explained what they meant to the management team. And I'm not going to go into each one of them, but I talked about Nike, the first brand that I really fell in love with. Back when I was in high school and college, I ran. I was a pretty good runner. And I wore Nikes. And I was a devout Nike brand follower. And it wasn't because the shoes were technically better. It wasn't because the laces or the spikes or the cushioning. It was because of the emotion that I felt from the Nike brand. And one of the first campaigns they did was Just Do It. And you might remember this. It wasn't, we have the best shoes. It wasn't, ours are more technologically advanced. Nike said, just do it, and that spoke to me. That was emotion. I wasn't going to go out and run fast. I was going to go out and do it. Whatever it took, I was going to do it. And this is really the first brand that I remember liking as a brand and not just a product. And Nike, they really stuck out to me because they were the first company that I remember. I'm sure others have done it. But for me, the first one where they took an athlete and they put him up on a pedestal. And there was a runner back then named Steve Prefontaine. And he was a rebel. He was like James Dean. And he would show up to these all-comer track meets that didn't really mean anything and set an American record for the 5,000 meter or 10,000 meters. And Nike took him and they put him up as the rebel. And he was their first really sort of bad boy, if you will. But he was the first person that pushed what was out there, pushed conventional thinking, tried to do it better, and tried to continually improve. And as a brand, that stuck with me. And if you go to the Nike campus in Oregon, you can drive onto the campus, and the entire campus is a shrine to their athletes. It's a shrine to Just Do It. In fact, on the left up here is a statue of Steve Prefontaine. They have a statue of this person. So Nike is all about celebrating the athlete. And I don't know if they've stated their core values, but I can tell they're about inspiring and having people continue to build on their dreams. And that stuck with me. The next brand that I really remember thinking about was Patagonia. And I liked Patagonia primarily for the clothing itself, for the product. It's an incredible product. The founder is a guy named Yvon Chouinard, who states that he hates business, but yet in the process of hating business, he's built an organization that I think will do about $600 million in sales this year and continues to grow. Now, Patagonia is not just about clothing. They also celebrate the outdoors, but they celebrate a set of values. Yvon Chouinard is dedicated to the environment. He's dedicated to having business be something that can be a transformative thing, a vehicle for good. And he does this by using it as a platform to talk about environmental issues and to share with a larger audience different values that he holds dear to himself. And one of those is to not just buy for the sake of buying. And they put this ad, this was an ad that I think appeared in the Wall Street Journal about 2 or 3 years ago. And I don't know if you've seen it, but it was interesting. This is a company whose primary business is selling jackets and other outdoors gear. And they put out an ad that said, "Don't buy this jacket." And their point wasn't that they wanted to be clever and get your attention. They really meant it. They meant, don't go and buy unless you really need it. Now, if you need it, go buy the best, and hopefully you'll buy Patagonia. But don't just spend money for the sake of spending money. And since then, this value of not wasting, this value of protecting the environment, this value of conserving our resources for the future has led them to start this amazing program where you can send in your Patagonia clothing, and if it's ripped, they'll fix it for you. And they put together this truck, and they drove around the country. And you could meet the truck in whatever town they were in, and you could bring your jacket if it had a tear or a rip, and they would repair it for you right there on the spot. And to me, that was amazing. So this was another brand that the core values spoke. Once again, it didn't appeal to me because we want to be a big company. It didn't appeal to me because our product's the best. It appealed to me because this was a brand that had something behind it. And I kept meeting people that were devoted to Patagonia, much like I was devoted to Nike and how I'm devoted to Patagonia. In fact, I wear so much Patagonia clothing. Back at work, they say it's a Patagonia jumpsuit, and they give me grief for it because it's the main thing in my closet. The next brand I want to talk about, and this is a little silly, but this is meaningful. This is the Grateful Dead. And I don't know if y'all are familiar with the Grateful Dead, but that's actually me at a Grateful Dead concert in July, and I promise we weren't doing anything illegal, but we were having a great time. It was with a friend of mine that works at Counterculture. So you might ask, why am I talking about the Grateful Dead? Why am I talking about a band at a coffee conference when I'm talking about counterculture? Well, the reason why is because this band had a career of 50 years. During that 50 years, I don't think they had a #1 song. I don't think one of their albums cracked the top 10. But for most of their career, literally after the first 10 years of their career, for most of their career, they sold out every single show, and they would have 100+ concerts a year. And this past year, after not playing a concert for 20 years, they had 3 shows in Chicago. And they sold out those shows in just a matter of hours. So close to 250,000 people bought tickets for a concert for a band that has never had a #1 hit, that's never had a #1 album, that hadn't played a concert in 20 years, and went to see him for 3 nights in a row. And to me, that struck me as just this amazing thing, because really where it resonated to me is the Grateful Dead. You don't go see a concert where the Grateful Dead is playing. You go see a Dead show. And it meant something, and it was about a lifestyle. It was about expression. It was about creativity. So to me, it is a brand. It's a brand that represents something. And I tell you, in that place with 70,000 other people, that is a place where everybody wanted to be. Everybody was excited. We were thrilled to be there because we were part of something that was bigger than us. So those themes of being bigger than, let's be part of something that's bigger than us. Let's stand for something. Let's inspire people. So all those were these factors that played into my thought process about counterculture. And it played into this challenge I had, which was, once again, going from me to we, to building a company, to building a culture, to attracting people, to attracting customers and employees. So I sat down with a couple of members of the management team, and we created the Counterculture Coffee vision statement. And let me tell you a little story about when I was in business school. Entrepreneurs would come and talk to us at business school, and inevitably they would always talk about the vision statement. And to be honest, I would laugh. I would say, oh, vision statements are silly. That's not important. That's not what drives a business. Sales drives a business. Marketing and doing deals, those drive a business. But the reality I was facing was that what drives a business is a culture around a core set of values. What drives a business is a vision. So we put together this vision statement, and I did this with Peter Giuliano and with Darren Berlin, and we wrote it down, and we actually have it framed in my office. So this was about 2002. And we were very specific about how we chose the words. And let me go through it with you. So the first sentence, Counterculture Coffee is a relentless pursuit of coffee perfection. It's a pursuit. We're never going to get there. Perfection. We're never going to get there. We wanted to constantly challenge ourselves to do better, to keep exploring what can be with coffee. It's a journey. There's no final destination, and especially with coffee. I mean, think about the world of coffee that George Howell just talked about. We're just getting started in new aspects of coffee, and I think that will continue forever. And so we put it upon ourselves to really challenge ourselves to relentlessly pursue coffee perfection. The next is that Counterculture Coffee is a dedication to real environmental, social, and fiscal sustainability. We chose the word real because we wanted it to be real. We didn't want it to just be something that we talked about. Oh, yeah, we use sustainability. We talk about sustainability. No, we wanted it to be a real part of who we were. We wanted to think about the environment. We wanted to think about our employees, our farmers, farmer partners, our customers. We wanted to think about our communities where we sold coffee, where we bought coffee. And we wanted it to be real. The last sentence is that Counterculture Coffee is a commitment to creating cutting-edge coffee people. We love to teach. We love to share. I think there's an interesting thing about humans as a whole is we love to improve. I mean, everybody in this auditorium today is here because you want to learn. It's natural in what we all are driven by. And so we realized that we love to share what we know about coffee, and we realized that if we share something with someone, if we help them learn something, get a little more educated, improve themselves in some way, even if it's just coffee knowledge, there's going to be a strong bond there. So with this in mind, we said it went from the me to the we. And we started building a company based on these core values. And what was the first thing that I did was I talked about it over and over and over again. I would repeat the vision statement at every chance I had, every company meeting, every time we met with suppliers, every time we met with customers. And we shortened it a little bit to quality, sustainability, education. Quality, sustainability, education. Quality, sustainability, education. I said it over and over and over again to the point where people at the company would make fun of me. Enough, Brett. No, it's not enough because we have to live this. We have to be this every single day or we're not going to succeed. So we started living it, and we started identifying more of those characteristics, those core values that we embraced as individuals in the company. We realized that we wanted the team we worked with to be positive, to be thorough, to be inspiring and inspired, to be curious. And ultimately, we want to attract people to counterculture that do not accept the status quo. Ultimately, we've taken all this and we've rendered it into one saying, which is Counterculture Coffee. We believe in pushing potential. Pushing potential. So that set the tone. It set the bar pretty high for us, and we started building the company based on these core values. And it led us to do things. We started developing our business model, which are training centers. And these, I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, we just wholesale. We don't have retail stores. But we wanted to continue educating people. We wanted to share our message. We wanted to reach out into new markets. We wanted to continue pushing the potential of what can be with the business model. So we created the training center model. We did our first one in Charlotte, North Carolina. And since then, we've continued to open them up. And they continue to evolve. They continue to get better. The one on the right is our New York training center. And that was probably our most ambitious. It's 3,000 square feet. It's 2 floors. It's street level in Soho. To put it in comparison, our roasting facility in Durham, which is 5 or 6 times the size of this, we pay twice in rent in New York than what we do back in Durham. In the process of building out this training center, we use sustainable materials. We thought about every aspect of the training center. Another thing we did towards our vision statement is we created our education program. We had the training centers. Now we wanted to formalize the education program. And over the years, we've taken this program that we call Counterintelligence, and we've created a curriculum that spans everything from an introduction to coffee to history and origins to some really extreme, wonderfully coffee geeky classes. And over the last 2 years, we've had 5,000 students go through our classes. Direct trade, this was something that came up that's very interesting because for us, direct trade, initially it came about because we wanted to, obviously, to really respect our producer partners. And we felt like we wanted our buying practices audited. So we have a third party audit our buying practices. And this has worked for a while, and I was talking to George earlier. We're getting away from this because we feel like this is limiting. It was great for a while, but as I said, never settling for the status quo, always pushing potential. We're not going to sit back and say, well, we've got the direct trade program. That answers all of our questions. We're going to keep pushing. Some other things that our core values drove us to do. Producer relations. We set up a whole department just to develop the relationships with our farmer partners. And a lot of people do that now, but we did that about 10 years ago when we said, we take the customer service model and we throw it back and we do a farmer service model where we work with them and develop relationships and talk to them and share ideas and develop long-term strategies that help them and help us. We also created a sustainability manager, someone in the company that just focused on our sustainability efforts. Now, a lot of companies have that role, but for us, that was a big step for us. That was a new position in a small, struggling company or a company that was growing. That was a big move for us. But our vision statement, our core values drove us to do this. And then we've done other things. The transparency report that continues to evolve, where we publish the prices we pay for all of our relationships. Direct trade sort of honored our best relationships. Now we're talking about all of our relationships. We think it's important for everyone in the supply chain to have transparency, so we'll publish those. Another thing we've done along the lines of never settling for the status quo was product and packaging evolution. And on your left was packaging that we had about 4 or 5 years ago, and we won awards for it. People loved it. They're beautiful icons, and they're these wonderful wraparound labels. But we felt compelled and pushed to continue evolving our packaging. And so we didn't just evolve the material. We decided to do a wholesale change of the whole look and feel of the packaging. And so in the middle are our new packages. And not only did we change the color scheme, because you can see it's very different, we changed the material. The bags themselves are now compostable. One step closer to a sustainable coffee bag, one that doesn't fill up landfills. We also changed the names of some of our products. We had Espresso Toscano for over 10 years, and we decided to change it, much to the chagrin, much to the fury for some of our customers. What did you do with my Toscano? And we said, well, it's still there. We just changed the name. We wanted to evolve. We didn't want to be stuck. We didn't want to we didn't want to be satisfied with the status quo. And change can be hard, but we felt like it was really important. And as a result, these bags have gotten a lot of attention. And I think it's helped our brand. And it's helped us continue to expand what we do. A couple of things we did is right on the front, we put the roast date. On the back, we put complete transparency, the name of the farmer, as much information as we could possibly find about the coffee that's in that bag. And some of those are blends, and if we have a blend, it's a flavor profile, and the components might change. But we will list all the components, the farmers, as much as we can, complete transparency. We think that's critical. And then on the far right is a next evolution of some packaging, where it's a bag and a box. And my goal with the bag and the box is that more is less. It seems like more packaging, but we're looking at the carbon footprint. We're looking at really what it takes to produce that product, that packaging. Is it recyclable? What can we do with it other than the traditional bag? And as I said, our core values really started driving our business. And these are just a few of the things that have resulted from us looking over, as I like to put it, looking in the corner at our vision statement, the objective third party that keeps driving us to make the business better, to keep pursuing coffee perfection, to keep embracing sustainability, to keep educating as many people as we can. Seeds is a program that we take a penny a pound, and we have a fund that our producer partners can apply for. We didn't want to just give it to farmers. They apply for it, and they have to really invest it in their farms. And we have a conversation about that. Green Fund. At Counterculture, employees will match up to $500 towards their own personal sustainability initiative. It might be a bicycle so they can commute to work. It might be a bus pass or a membership to a fitness program. But all these things come from us driving this notion that we want real sustainability with everyone we deal with. Community-supported agriculture, another benefit for employees of Counterculture. We work with local farmers throughout the United States. They deliver produce, and the Counterculture team has access to this. We're supporting communities where we live, supporting communities where we work. Carbon neutrality is something that we have attained and we will keep looking at. Organic coffee, we have continued to support organic coffee. It's not the be-all, end-all in terms of the environment, but we feel like it's a good first proxy, and 75% of the coffee we buy is organic, and we've been able to find extraordinary organic coffees. Worms, bees, solar. These are all topics that we have presented in our training centers. We have community events where consumers come in. We'll talk about coffee, but we'll talk about other aspects of sustainability. We'll talk about composting and vermiculture. Holiday coffee where we give back, workshops, and then ultimately participating with organizations like World Coffee Events, where I'm on the board, but also we're supporting monetarily in efforts to try to ensure the long-term sustainability of the supply of coffee as we face things like climate change and minimal genetic diversity. So as I said, all these things are really driving the business. And I've gone from a person that makes every decision to I feel my job is to establish the context for the business. And the vision statement and our core values has helped us establish that context. And let me talk about something that happened with us that was kind of a phenomenon that we didn't expect, that I think is a direct result of our core values, of never settling on, never being content with what's out there, and always wanting to push ourselves. And so many of you might recognize the SCAA flavor wheel, which was a great thing. And almost every coffee company had a copy of the flavor wheel. Well, Tim Hill is our buyer. And Tim is an incredibly curious person. And of anybody at Counterculture, I think Tim embodies many aspects of our core values better than anyone else. When you're talking about someone that just does not settle for the status quo, he is constantly pushing. And any of our farmer partners that have worked with him know just how much he loves to experiment and keep pushing the boundaries of what can be at origin. Well, he looked at the old flavor wheel, which was great, but he wanted to put his own spin on it. not a criticism of the old flavor wheel, just he wanted to share his interpretation, sort of his third wave, if you will, or a modern interpretation of the flavor wheel. And so he looked out in the industry and looked at other coffee companies around the United States, and actually around the world, and he put together a list of the common descriptors that were used. And he, if you will, put his version of the flavor wheel down. And we published it, and we put it on our website, and the next thing we know, people started downloading it. And we didn't really know why. And through my work with World Coffee Research, I have friends, and actually from being in the business for 20 years, I have friends at companies large and small all around the United States. And I started talking to those friends, and they said, Brett, it was amazing. On our Monday morning meeting, our coffee buyers came in, and they had a copy of your Coffee Taster's Flavor Wheel, of the Counterculture Coffee Taster's Flavor Wheel. And that started happening time and time and time again. And then on social media, we started seeing it pop up literally all over the world. We saw it on Instagram and all over Europe, all over Asia, all over in Australia and New Zealand. We just couldn't believe it. And next thing you know, we got a call from the Wall Street Journal. And they have a little feature on the front page that's sort of whimsical. They explore different topics. And they had an article that said, how about a meat-like cup of Joe? Coffee buyer brews up new flavor wheel. So this was the front page of the Wall Street Journal, which, once again, back when I was in business school, I never thought that anything I did would be featured in the Wall Street Journal, or be a part of would be featured in the Wall Street Journal. But I think because of our core values, because of this pursuit of never sitting still, of always wanting to push, this thing happened, and we're still shocked by it. And to date, there have been over 175,000 downloads of the flavor wheel from our website. So, the last 20 years for me has been an amazing experience. I went from not knowing anything about coffee to having it be a huge part of my life. I stumbled across the coffee industry, and I am so thankful that lucky thing happened for me. It's an amazing industry that we all know and love, and I'm really proud to be a part of it. And over the years, counterculture has continued to grow, and it's been a kind of amazing to me to see the success that we have had. Right now, we have over 80 employees, including our first employee, Getu Bakili, in Ethiopia. We have 10 training centers around the United States, with 4 on the books. LA, we're looking at Seattle, somewhere in Texas, somewhere in Florida. We now have roasting on both coasts, in Durham, North Carolina, and just outside of San Francisco. And this year, we're going to grow about 20 to 25%. So we've been able to keep that growth. And I'm proud to say that this last quarter was our largest, most profitable quarter in the history of the company. It's our largest profit sharing that we've ever had. And this amazing thing has happened. As counterculture continues to grow, I need to continue building the team. And we need to continue building the team. And so majority of the folks at counterculture, majority of the management team, has literally come up through production. And we still hire from within. But we're at a stage now where we need to bring in some outside expertise, some experience in other areas that we just don't have. The business is getting pretty complex with roasteries on both coasts and 80 employees spread around the country. So as we started to put out, looking searches for different people, for chief financial officer, for a marketing person, it's amazing the response that we've had. And the response throughout all the applicants has been, I love counterculture because of what you all stand for. You have a great product, and you have great core values, and I want to work for a company that I can be proud of. Talking about proud myself, I mean, that is the ultimate compliment to what counterculture has been able to do. Because once again, we weren't trying to be of a certain size, and we still aren't, although we do want to continue growing, and I'll talk about that in a minute. We weren't trying to really have a certain product. We just wanted to build a great company, and we want to continue building a great company. So as I look forward, we do have a goal, sort of a North Star goal, if you will, something that's out there that we can work towards. And we want to sell 10 million pounds per year in 10 years. But the important thing is we want to sell those pounds, to source those pounds, to roast those pounds, to support those pounds, to work with our customers that are using those pounds within the context of our vision statement, with the context of quality, sustainability, and education. So ultimately, will we get there? On one hand, you look at even the U.S. coffee market, and there are literally billions of pounds of coffee that are roasted and sold each year. Billions. I like to think those pounds want to get better. They want to move towards the quality that we're selling. So one might think, oh, 10 million pounds a year, that's going to be easy. And the reality is, in the grand scheme of things, versus companies that you know, the Starbucks, lots of the big companies, that's just a fraction of what they sell. But that's okay. If we can do it in the context of our vision statement, that's our goal. But I don't know if we can get there. A lot has changed recently in our segment, in the so-called third wave of the coffee industry. The last 3 weeks has seen Stumptown and Intelligentsia get acquired by a German global conglomerate, a big company that also owns Peet's and Caribou and other coffee companies around the world. So we're going to have a lot of competition from our peers that now have much, much deeper pockets. We also are seeing a lot of competition from smaller roasters. In every town in the United States, tiny little roasters are popping up, and they're doing a great job. They're sourcing wonderful coffee, and they're experimenting, and they're pushing the limits themselves. So we have competition on both sides. So ultimately, will we get to our goal? Will we get to 10 million pounds a year? I'm not sure. But my hope is that along the way, if we continue to embrace our core values, if we continue to be true to quality, sustainability, and education, if we continue to push potential and never settle for the status quo, I think we have a pretty good shot. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. I also would like to have some questions from the floor. So if you have any questions, do we have another applicant?
So first of all, Mr. Smith, your speech made my vision clear and even my heart beating fast. I'm really thank you so much. So currently, I own and work as a Belay barista Belay barista school. And could you give me any kind of key point or any kinds of advice to running the training center? And also, I would like to ask, how did you get 5,000 people in 2 years?
It's a good question. Sometimes I have to think about that myself. In terms of the training centers, it's a combination of things in terms of finding what really resonates with our customers. As I said before, we're just wholesale. So we think about things that really help their business, that can help them, as we call it, be better coffee people. And from there, we just continue exploring. We listen to the customers. What do they need? And then sometimes the customers don't know exactly what they need, so we'll experiment with things. We've started labs, and we've had them in place for a number of years, and then we stopped that lab or evolved it. So we continually try to improve those labs. In terms of 5,000 people coming through, we just opened our 10th training center. So for the most part, we had about 8 training centers. And we have a full curriculum, so they're classes that could potentially be taught every day. And we offer those to our customers. And so it's just a matter of putting the word out and encouraging them to come in and take the labs. And we're spread out over 10 different cities. So in each of those markets, we've invited people, not only our customers, but people that aren't our customers, to come in and experience our labs. We've also started developing labs for consumers. There's so much education that needs to take place on the consumer level so that they'll have the appreciation that George Howell was talking about in terms of really, even though they might pay $20, $30 a pound for coffee or even higher, in many ways, that's an incredible value for the experience. So helping them understand that. And of course, teaching them how to brew it properly. And then the last thing I would say is when we bring consumers in, is making it friendly for them. Coffee can be very intimidating. And we love to talk about different aspects of coffee and sort of brag, if you will, about how much we know. But coffee can be very intimidating. But once you introduce it to people in a very straightforward way, then their imagination takes off and it starts to build and they start to want to learn more and more.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We still have some time to receive questions. So if you have any, please raise your hand.
First, great talk. Really appreciated and very inspiring. A practical question. You mentioned how the box and the bag are perhaps a better ecological solution or in that direction, and I was curious how that is.
Well, we're still not 100% sure that it is. But the boxes can be manufactured in the United States, literally just down the road from us, using 100% post-consumer recyclable material. The box itself then can be recycled. The material for the bag itself, we can buy a film for it as opposed to having the bags pre-made, primarily over this part of the world and shipped all the way across the Pacific, trucked all the way down across the country to Durham, North Carolina. And then we're looking at the material itself, that now there's product that can be, that is compostable. If a bag is in a box, the box can give it structure. So the bag itself can be a little thinner, so you can eliminate certain layers, so it's even more compostable. Now, we're in the process of doing an analysis just to see if it really is true that more is less. And some people have criticized. We had someone write me and says, I'm never going to buy your coffee again because you've abandoned your principles of sustainability by creating more packaging. And so it's a challenge for us. But we're in the process of looking for it. We might not get there, but we're going to see just how far we can go and understand it. Because to me, the coffee bag, the 12-ounce or the 1-pound coffee bag is such a problem that we need to eliminate. Think of the thousands and thousands and thousands that just go in the trash can and go in landfill every year. So we need to work on that.
Thank you.
Do you have a question?
Thank you for that great speech.
Sure.
My question is about the organic aspect. In your principle, you support that and you're trying to source as much as possible. How does that go with the fact that there is the certification of organic coffees? And do you care if it's certified or not, as long as you know that it's certified for you to put it in your system?
Well, certifications in general, I think they can serve a purpose, but they can also be, I don't know if misleading is the right term. Sometimes people will see a certification and think, oh, it's fine. But there's always more behind something than just a certification will suggest. And so for years, we viewed organic certification as a pretty good proxy, as a pretty good example of environmental stewardship. But the reality is it's not the be-all, end-all. So to your question, no, we're not requiring organic. What we're starting to look at and what we're trying to develop with our farmer partners, where it makes sense, is what is a better way, a more sustainable way. Maybe it's not certified organic, but a sustainable way for them to grow coffee and for them to have a minimal impact on the environment, continue to produce the quality they want, continue to make the living and earn the amount that they need to continue building their farm. So, no, we're not saying it's organic or it's not good. That's not what we're saying at all. And we're not saying either it's organic or we're not buying it. That's not what we're saying. We have found some extraordinary coffees that are organic. And organic is a good step towards the environment, but it's not the end of the process. And we're going to keep looking and keep helping some farmers promote organic, but look at other ways for them to have higher yields, better quality, and have a minimal impact on the environment so they can continue growing great coffee now and forever.
What I meant a bit was the certification?
The question was whether or not if it was important that it was certified organic or if we just knew it was organic. The answer to that is we push for quality. And when we work with a farmer partner, we want to make sure that the quality is there and the effort towards either working towards organic or towards some way of sustainable agriculture is there. So we're not saying, oh, the quality's great, you're doing most of it, we're not going to buy it. It's important for us that the quality is there and the effort to look down the road and to continue improving that farm. That's the most critical thing for us, the most important thing for us.
Thank you so much. Is there any question? Seems to be no here.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank